Hi, my name is Melissa Goldstein, and welcome to Law, Medicine, and Ethics. I started my undergraduate career at the University of Virginia as a pre-med student. But during the spring semester of my first year, my grandfather, who most of my family say I take after in terms of both my persistence and my pig-headedness, had a massive stroke in his brainstem and was eventually diagnosed as in a persistent vegetative state, what we now know as a PVS. My grandfather had a feeding tube implanted in his stomach and lived for another year, but while he was still in the PVS, I took a course named Theology, Ethics, and Medicine from a very well-known professor in bioethics named Jim Childress, and everything clicked. Eventually, I decided that I was more interested in thinking about and talking about moral quandaries in medicine than I was in actually practicing medicine, and that's how I ended up in law school. I was fortunate enough to be accepted at Yale, and then even more fortunate to be able to study with Professor Jay Katz. Professor Katz wrote the book, The Silent World of Doctor and Patient, and was adamant about the necessity, the absolute necessity of informed consent in all things about clinical treatment and clinical research. Professor Katz also warned me that if I chose to go into bioethics as a career, that I'd always be banging my head against difficult issues. He was right, and this is exactly how I want it. After law school, I clerked for 2 federal judges and then completed a postdoctoral fellowship in bioethics and health policy at Johns Hopkins University and Georgetown University. I then entered the world of public service by competing for a White House fellowship, and when I was awarded the fellowship, I served as a domestic policy advisor to Vice President Al Gore. After Vice President Gore lost that traumatic election, I worked in policy and politics in both the private and the nonprofit sectors. All along, I taught courses in law, medicine, and ethics on an adjunct basis at several different universities until I ended up at GW in 2006. So, what is it that fascinates me and motivates me about bioethics? The issues that we will discuss in this course are the issues that make us all human. The definitions of life and death, the nature of personal identity, the requirements of justice, and the boundaries of personal liberty. I have had the great fortune in my lifetime to study with some of the luminaries in the field of bioethics, and now I have the honor to pass on some of their wisdom to you. You will be successful in this course if you read all of the assignments, really think deeply about all of the material, and most of all, be present with us during the discussions. Let me and your classmates know what you think, because the best bioethics discussions are interdisciplinary in nature and represent multiple viewpoints. We will learn from each other. Over a recent holiday, I asked my parents if they thought that my grandmother would have made the same choice today about inserting the feeding tube in my grandfather that she made more than 20 years ago. Both of my parents thought that she would have made the exact same choice. This is what bioethics is. The stories of individual decision-making, the stories of families, hopefully supported by and helped through these difficult issues by health professionals, all of us trying to muddle through this thing we call life. I really look forward to meeting you in the coming weeks and to learning from you and with you this semester.